Well, hello and welcome to this edition of the Opline Opcast. I'm your host, Beau Higgins, and I have the honor and the privilege to be joined today by a longtime friend in the military hiring space, Karin Childress Wiley, who's been doing this for quite some, one of the OGs in the business for sure. Someone that really helped me when I got in with Amazon years ago. Karin, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Appreciate it.
It's awesome. Great seeing you. And again, it's been truly one of the first people I think I met in the veteran hiring space years ago when I had just started my Amazon time. I'm always there to help out and kind of share best practices and things. But I'd love to kind of back it all up and understand what's your background and what was your impetus for getting into the military space? What was your kind of, why was that important to you when you started off your career?
Love to tell my story. So I come from a military family. My dad served in the Navy and was a Vietnam veteran. So I was actually born in San Diego on the Navy base down there. So had kind of that connection to the military and spent my time admiring that community. Also, growing up, my best friend's father was a judge in the Air Force. Really respected and appreciated him. And as I was growing up, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to join the Air Force and be a lawyer, and ultimately wanted to be a constitutional law lawyer.
That's awesome. That's interesting. From a young age, had the desire. I'll go to the Air Force. Vice going to the Marine Corps. That's okay. Well, how'd that all transpire?
I found myself in human resources. I worked for a recruitment advertising agency in the early 2000s, which is TMP Worldwide. Many people, I actually think the younger generation doesn't know the story much now, so it might be good to tell the story. Yeah. TMP Worldwide owned a small internet site with the first 100 sites, Monster.com. Monster.com ended up growing and eventually became its own company. So when Monster.com became its own company, I went from TMP Worldwide over to the Monster.com platform, ended up running their enterprise sales organization for Monster.com, which was just a wild ride. So much fun. One of the top 10 most recognized brands at the time, and ended up eventually growing their recruitment media business. So all things that were not their job postings and resumes. And recruitment media at the time was understanding how to reach niche audiences using targeting online, which it sounds silly now because we all understand how to do this, but it was very new. And so that included diversity by ethnicity, by niche jobs. And so early 2000s, Monster.com bought Military.com. And so part of my work was then to build the Military.com property from a consumer advertising site into a recruitment advertising site. And so I took on the role of running the veteran employment program for Military.com. The same year Monster bought Military.com, I met the man who would become my husband, little Lance Corporal Wiley at the time, but ultimately would become my husband. And he served in the Marine Corps for 22 years. So my entire time at Military.com and our entire marriage, I have been in this veteran employment space. So I ended up leading veteran employment for Military.com and then ultimately founding the Veteran Center of Excellence for Ronstadt, who owned Monster and Military.com, and now find myself at 4Block leading marketing, communications, and development for 4Block. So literally my entire career has been in this space.
I'd love to go back to it, kind of the Wild West days. I can only imagine what it was like. I mean, when Monster.com got started, that was the beginning of the internet. I mean, there was not much out there, which is fascinating to think of now because we're inundated by, the internet these days. And to think of Monster.com acquiring Military.com, what was Military.com when you first got? Obviously it morphed over time, right? And you turned it into something of an engagement platform, obviously. But what was that process like? This is the infancy of tech. Were you just making stuff up? What was it like back then? I'm just curious. Yeah.
There's a reason why a brand like Monster wanted Military.com, and I have to say, it was already what it was. I can't take any credit for what Military.com already was. It was by far the largest news online source of information for the military community. So news, benefits, discounts, financial information, all of that already existed. It already was that. It still is that. But what it wasn't was an employment site. It didn't have access to jobs. So it was USAA, get a loan through USAA, but not work at USAA. Buy a Ford truck, but not work at Ford. And so my work was to get those very same companies to have an employment presence and not just a consumer presence. But I mean, it was then and still is now the number one destination site, sometimes, by 5-10 times their competitors to reach that audience.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think of military.com as a place you go if you need housing on a base somewhere. I remember, I think you could find Stars and Stripes on there. They had a link to go see the paper.
They're a bona fide, legitimate news agency. They're producing original content and bird dogging news content, right? Like they were going out and sourcing new information and producing that on a daily basis as well.
It's interesting to see, and how, was it a challenge to kind of get them to move into the hiring space? I mean, it seems like a natural progression that you would offer. It's just one more thing that they would offer as a service for our veterans. Hey, come here, read news stories and learn about benefits, whatever, but you can also find a job.
Well, the challenge was, and you just nailed it, this is 2008, 2010, right? And the biggest challenge is that, and I know you know this, people listening probably know this too, is that we were going to employers and saying, they're not broken, they don't have PTSD, they won't show up and curse, they will wear a suit to the interview. We were still totally myth-busting negative stereotypes. And the buyer at military.com was the consumer advertising agency. So there was a lot of it's going to be okay if you hire these people into your organization. Don't worry, right? It won't break the process. And so we were doing a lot of educational training. We went on a 50-city tour where we would get 40, 50 employers every week where the content was stuff that really kind of silly, low now, like stereotype myth busting, telling them that yes, in fact, there are jobs in the military that match up to the jobs you have. It seems really simple now. But this was new information at the time. And it ultimately led to the creation of the Skills Translator, which we installed for the first one at Boeing. And I'm proud of that work. I think it was amazing. The military.com Skills Translator in its time was groundbreaking, where you could put in your MOS code. It would hit back to and come up with jobs against the military.com and monster.com jobs database that were a match. It was really literal at the time, but still it was the first thing like it. And I think it was a good first step. I think there's a lot, and there's a lot of progress now on that, where it's more like to job families and doing more like soft skills translation. But at the time, that was the work that we were doing, and it helped a lot.
It definitely had to start somewhere, and certainly from an Opline lens, we think we've gotten it a little better than that over time, obviously, right? I think it's interesting to talk about the narrative you talked about, because there's still today that broken veteran narrative is out there. And it's interesting because I think there's always this pull and tug, right? You have some nonprofits that are trying to raise money for broken, military families, or to support folks that have been injured, wounded, whatever. Yeah. And that's a good thing, but yes, their message is you need to do this for the broken, military, but the vast majority are not, right? And unfortunately, I think there's, although maybe done from a place of goodness to kind of, raise money for those that have been killed or wounded or injured or have issues, mm-hmm, it bleeds over to the 90% that are relatively fine in the big sense of things, yeah, and just want a job. But you can't, those narratives get blended together sometimes in I think a negative way. That the broken Marine, broken military narrative doesn't help when you're trying to get hired, right? And I think there is that stereotype of so many people that think, why would I hire a Marine? They're going to be like Rambo and they're going to go postal or whatever. Man, that narrative is, I've heard it. I've really heard it. So I think it's a challenge to separate those two apart, right?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. That's something that I've said a lot in my messaging, is that while I think it is absolutely the most honorable job, it is really about the job you used to have. So let's talk about how that job has skills, training, experience that can translate into roles in today's workforce. And then let's talk about today's workforce. Where are the skill gaps? What is the future of today's workforce? And I think that veterans are expertly suited to be ready for the future of today's workforce because highly adaptable, highly trainable, cutting edge technology, right? So this job you used to have with these hard skills and these really unique soft skills make you perfectly suited for the jobs of the future. That's the narrative I've always had for veterans. I think it's heard better now than it used to be heard. But I really think that is 4Block's message, but I think it's the message that's going to take veterans further now, even more so today, when you see employers that are looking at what is their workforce of the future look like, and they may not understand how to get there. And veterans are saying, listen, I had no idea what the next role was going to look like, but I understood how to train people into that uncertainty. And I think veterans are kind of expertly suited to take on this new adventure.
100%. Obviously, most brand new joinees in the military, whatever service you join, you didn't know how to work a radar system when you got there. You didn't know how to do maintenance on an aircraft. You didn't know how to drive a tank, right? You've proven you can learn something that is completely new to you and do well and exceed in that. That skill set is something that translates over. You have the ability to learn and you've proven you can work with technology. That's the value add, right? Is that, yes, I can come into your company with the leadership I now have, with the ability to show up on time and work hard, and the ability that I've proven before to learn something completely new in like 6 weeks and be ready to go, right? I mean, that's a pretty cool thing.
Unlike 30 years ago, joining military personnel, they're not joining because of limited options or lack of education. They're joining for the education and for the expansive options. And I think it's just a different group of people joining the military than it has been in times of the past. And I think we can do a whole lot. We can set a whole different career path for these folks, especially, and this is a different conversation, if we start talking about the jobs that they'll have when they exit, when they join, right? And really start creating these pathways and connecting employers from the beginning.
So not only how do you maximize the utilization of the skills that the veterans have from the military, but how do you translate it still? How do you understand it? How do you keep them on a path to be successful on the back end, knowing that early on, like, hey, I'm going to do these things. This is going to set me up for something on the back end of it. I think there's a few efforts out there to try to do that, but nothing that's really been done it very well. I know you've worked in the apprenticeship space for a while. I mean, I think that's something that probably for veterans, if you are getting out, the opportunities you have to make that career change on the back end, you can do it again into a skill set that the industry needs, that you maybe are pretty close to or have some of the foundations for, but how do you get to that upskilling piece of it, through apprenticeship programs? I think it's a great way, but underappreciated by so many employers of how to utilize the benefits of an apprenticeship program for veterans in particular, because they can be pretty cheap too, because DOL will pay for these things, right? I mean, this is something you can utilize. Or I'd love for you to share some of what should companies do if they have, hey, we have a skills gap, I'd love to use your talent. How should they do that?
I'm a huge fan of SkillBridge. Absolutely, employers should have SkillBridge and veterans should look for SkillBridge, no doubt. Now there's some changes and that might get harder. If you do or do not get a SkillBridge or whatever, apprenticeship is absolutely a pathway to gaining the skills that you need. So I think that apprenticeship is as much as perhaps even more of a viable pathway because of the connection to employment at the end. Now, you're supposed to get a job at the end of SkillBridge, but let's just set that aside for a moment. Apprenticeship is actually working in the role that you're going to have and learning the skills on the job. And not just apprenticeship, but also certification that comes along with that, right? Where you find somebody who is nearly there, has a small gap, they match what you're looking for, and you as the employer invest in that person to fill the gap, be it a certification or an on-the-job training. That is the way of the future, because with the rapidly changing pace of technology, no one has all the skills they need for the job that it is going to be in 6 months. I mean, even if I think about the work I do today, I learned 2 weeks ago how to use a new piece of technology that I never learned. No one has all the skills they're ever going to need for the end of their career. An apprenticeship is, to me, a lifelong plan here.
You're so spot on the. I mean, SkillBridge is like the sexy program for whatever reason. And I get it; it's a great program.
We did that. We in the veteran space did it because we were out there saying, you can get access. It's like we're trying to negotiate with the employers. And it won't even cost you anything.
The apprenticeship side, you can use your GI Bill benefits. You can get paid a stipend, like going back to college. It is using your GI Bill because it's considered school, right? Unlike SkillBridge, this is something where they will pay you to do it. I think it's appreciated or misunderstood how companies can utilize apprenticeship program for those critical skills. I mean,
the Veteran Center of Excellence essentially was a upskilling on-the-job training program. Now, it was not necessarily an apprenticeship program. It wasn't being funded by the Department of Labor. It was using the staffing model, hire a group of people in at one pay rate. While you were paying them to do a job, we would train them to be prepared for the next job, and when they were ready to do it, you would move them to that next job. But because it was a staffing company, that was really easy to do because, they were contracted employee, right? So even if you don't have an actual apprenticeship program, which I encourage you to do it because there are funding models, but even if you don't, you can still create this idea of apprenticeship, which is hiring somebody in, continuing to train them and move them on to the next level. We don't have to hire a 100% fully skilled person on the day you hire them because, like I just said, nobody has the skills for the job 2 years from now because technology across every industry is advancing so quickly.
No doubt. No, it's a fascinating topic that I think people don't appreciate enough is the upskilling piece and utilization of apprenticeship programs and the funding out there. I mean, it can be super cheap for an employer. It's a little complicated to get started. I get that. So maybe SkillBridge is easier in some ways, but on the back end, the apprenticeship is worth the investment because it's something that, again, is just a much more tangible, hard thing. Certification you're getting from it, vice just the experience of a SkillBridge program. So few people know about all the work that is done, those opportunities that are out there. What we don't do as a military community, and I speak with this with my Amazon lens on, is tell the story of how, how cost effective it is to have a veteran hiring program because of programs like SkillBridge, because of apprenticeship programs, because of things like the work opportunity tax credit. You can, $100 invested into a veteran program goes a lot farther than $100 invested in a non-veteran program because of the benefits that you can tap into that, because the government wants you to hire veterans. But I don't know that we as a community tell that story very well of the potential cost savings.
I agree. And that's something we've really been working on at 4Block. I think that's probably over the past year one of the biggest challenges I took on to help them really advance the way they're telling that story. They have organizations that over their time sponsoring their hosting events for the Career Readiness Program have hired 65, 75 people out of the program. But I don't know that either side of that hires has a great articulation of what that story is. And so working with 4Block to help both sides understand, what would those 75 people have cost you to hire if they were not veterans, right? These $100,000 engineering roles, 75 of them. What is that? $30,000 a person, right? I don't want to attempt to do the math live, but that's a lot of money, and I can tell you it's 100 times more than what you spent at 4Block. So what's that ROI? How can we do more of it? Does more look like just hosting more events? Probably not. We probably need to find a way to get to an audience in a different way, tell your story about the industry, and so that's the biggest project that I've been working on here at 4Block is to help them understand how to tell that story better to the employers, and then help the employers tell it better back internally, because that's the other thing I think is that sometimes internally the veteran teams, employers can sometimes find themselves talking amongst themselves and not getting their stories elevated up on the executive. And so the funding can come from the veteran employee resource groups or from the diversity teams, or in our case often from the foundations because we're a nonprofit. But if you ever got maybe like an executive business leader to understand that they spent $50,000 instead of $2.5 million, right? There might have been different ears that might have got a hold of that story.
That's the business case, right? You making that business case to your leadership to show them $8,000 investment in this veteran program is worth 10x what you're going to do investing in a non-veteran type program, right? Because you get so much bang for the buck for it. I 100% am on board with that. Again, I think we don't tell that story as employers don't tell our own story internally well enough to make people realize how much of a savings there can be and how much the dollar goes farther when you do invest in the program. So it's on us in some ways to tell that story better. But maybe you can help us do that. Well, and seriously, I obviously have a personal relationship with 4Block. I've worked with them for years during my time at Amazon. But for those that may not know what 4Block is or what 4Block does.
Sure. 4Block is a veteran nonprofit. Our mission is to fundamentally change the way veterans transition from service. We serve the active duty service members, transitioning service members, veterans, and then military spouses. Our foundational program is the Veteran and Military Spouse Career Readiness Program. It's a 10-week cohort program. It's about career transition and transition readiness. It's the fundamentals of resume writing and interview tactics, although those are there. It's also really about understanding who you are, finding your purpose, finding your calling, and really making that meaningful transition into a role that can support your family and that has that career pathway. So figuring out the industry and the role that suits you. So it's bigger picture, but using advanced technology and coaches, mentors, and really the secret sauce is the connection to employers. So it's not just trust us, 4Block says this is the way it works. You're engaged on a weekly basis with employers that are looking to hire you. So it's not just here's how to write your resume, it's here's how Amazon wants to receive your resume, and here's coaches from Amazon that want to connect with you. So that's kind of our core course, but we also have industry pathway programs that will introduce you to a variety of industries and different roles that are in those industries. Meetups, we're building chapter programs, we have big student veteran chapters. And so really it's all about meeting that veteran where they are, be it 18 months out from transition or they transitioned 2 years ago, but they didn't get that role that suits them.
You're doing physical locations for cohorts, and are they virtual as well? Can you do it both ways now? And where are the physical locations?
Yeah, so COVID changed things for us. We used to only be in physical locations, but we had to switch to virtual at COVID. And so as we emerged from that, we now have both. And you can choose what works best for you. Typically, it's major metropolitan locations, so like New York, Atlanta, Tampa, Texas, Colorado, Seattle, big cities. And then virtual locations, and those are more regional, so like Northeast, Southeast, Central, Texas, West. And the idea behind those are, well, number one, if it makes sense for you to be able to attend those 10 weeks in person in that location, then that's right for you. But also some people who are relocating after transition, the virtual might make sense. So let's say you're in California, but you're transitioning back to the Northeast when you exit, attend the Northeast because you'll meet the Northeast employers. Or it might be a time zone thing, you need to attend at a different time zone because you're in school or something like that. So we've got the in-person and the virtual that will allow you to attend in a way that works for you. We also have a self-paced course called Find Your Calling, built in collaboration with Columbia University. Has some really amazing content. You can pace through it on a timing that works for you. It doesn't have the employer connections, so it's not the whole program, but it has some really great Find Your Purpose, Find Your Calling content that will allow you to maybe get prepared, maybe take it early on, get prepared for what's next, maybe before a skill bridge program or in a transitional moment.
When's the next cohort start? And so how often do you do them? How long are they?
So we follow the traditional university schedule, so spring and fall.
You'll start in the summer along with like the school year, like so you'll have a cohort starts end of August, early September basically, and another one starts in January. And you don't do a summer school session?
We don't do summer school. You can take the Find Your Calling anytime. So if you're looking for some extra summer work, you can always do Find Your Calling. We do have a couple programs where we're starting some pilots. We've got a 3-week program starting up on a college campus. If something like that were to work out, that might be a great summer program. We've got a military spouse pilot going with a partner. So we have some some things going here and there as pilots that might turn into programs that we'll launch nationwide, but for now we'll just leave those as little teasers.
Well, we've talked a lot about how the transitioning veterans can tap into 4Block and use it. Why should an employer engage with 4Block? What do they get out of it, and what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. The employers really, there's kind of multifacets to what an employer gets out of it. And one way to think about it is who engages with us. So we work with really kind of three groups. We work with the talent acquisition team, and what they're looking to do is recruit people out of our programs. We work with the ERGs or BRGs, and sometimes employers are looking for an outlet for their BRG members as a way to volunteer, give back, connect in the military community, and they can act as coaches or actually be part of the host sessions. So I can talk about what that means in a moment. And then we also work with the foundations. So Coca-Cola Company, but Coca-Cola Foundation, they're looking for their social impact avenue. Veterans are a key priority, so we work with the foundation as a way to give back financially to the veteran community. You can work with 4Block. When you join our community through sponsorship, you get access to not just the veterans for the area that you're connected with, but all across the nation. You can host, so you physically interact in your location with those that go through your location, but you also get access to the whole community. You can host industry panels, you can host industry breakout rooms, you can sponsor different pages on our website and logos on our website and whatnot. And then the resource groups, we have coaches. 60% of our coaches are alumni of our program, so it's kind of like the pay it forward. And also when you host a program, it's great to have a pretty big show up from that employer. So it's good to have executives, people from talent acquisition, but also people from the business resource groups. So it's a great way to kind of bring the whole team.
That's great. You're engaging different segments of the businesses, allowing the Veteran Resources Group to get engaged and be supportive and an outlet for them, obviously from the foundational level, which is great, and just from the recruiters that want to hire their talent. And I assume it's a little different everywhere. I feel like every region of 4Block is a little different, and I assume it's a little tailored. The industries are going to be, the partners you have are going to be different based on the regions. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Northeast, we're really heavy in finance, and out west, really heavy in aerospace and tech in different places. So most certainly.
I'm excited to see the growth and continued growth of what 4Block is to where it has become, and I love to hear that you're adding programs for the spouses and some pilot programs out there for folks that to meet the needs of the veteran, transitioning veteran where they are, because everyone's going to be in a little different place, has different requirements, different things they're trying to do, but also trying to make sure show the ROI to the companies so they will continue to invest in what you're doing and be able to help y'all continue to grow and just kind of that virtuous cycle of getting more people in there. The better talented folks you get in there, the more the company's going to want them and the more they can use them. And I know that from an Opline lens, we love the fact that they're using our tool to help the veterans figure out what they want to do and where they want to do it. And it's a great partnership. It's been fun for us. So yeah.
Wait until you see, Beau, when we launch our new website. Included in our new website will be a resources panel, a toolbox, which we're calling Recon. And in that toolbox will be access to all of our partners. One place, one-stop shop for all of the great tools that we recommend. So kind of like a dashboard for the veterans as they're going through our programs. To get to your phenomenal tool, to get to CareerFlow AI, which is a resume building tool that they get access to. Not only if they go through the career readiness program, but also any veteran who attends any of our industry pathway events gets a free 3-month sign-in to our CareerFlow tool. So Recon Dashboard will be part of our website launch. Also, we have a AI tool. Her name is Scout, and she will be providing information from all of our curriculum digitally on demand. So ask Scout a question, she'll be giving answers from the 4Block curriculum. So not generic information, but answering from our great curriculum. The website's going to be very cool and a huge step forward, not just providing information, but being interactive and being a place for our community to come and engage with us. So we're really excited. It's not, I mean, we'd be excited if it was just, new colors and new photos and stuff, but I think it'll fundamentally change the way we interact with our community. And we're really excited about that.
And what is the hopeful launch date? When is the plan to roll it out?
I'm afraid to.
Can I ask? I don't. Launch dates are always moving target. In theory,
summer.
All right, summer. Fair. I'll leave it at that. That's great. Awesome. Well, hey, it has been a pleasure talking to you, Karin. It's been a while since we got to catch up, but I can't thank you enough for all the time you spent with me, not only today, but I kind of entered into the space years ago. You were there as one of the OGs in the space, and are continuing to lead from the front and help out so many, not only veterans, but companies and people and programs that are moving forward in this. So thank you for that. I guess any final words of wisdom you want to share with our audience today?
Sure, but before I do that, I want to say thank you to you too, because you also have always been there. After 22 years, my husband transitioned out from the Marine Corps. You, of course, accepted his call. You gave him great advice. You helped him make good decisions. And so, it's a circle of the way we support people. So I wanted to say thank you for that. He's having an amazing career, and, a big part of that, and thanks to the community that he had access to. So advice. I think my advice to the military community is, you absolutely have what it takes to be an exceptional corporate employee, right? You can set yourself on a career pathway to achieve meaning and purpose in everything that you want. You are competitive, and you absolutely have an advantage, I believe. You have that secret advantage. Just take some time, think about what it is that you're looking for, use the tools and resources that are out there. Don't get overwhelmed or confused. Find that select few programs, dive in, really invest in the programs you choose. You won't get it wrong. And good luck. You've got this.
Great advice. And I think a great way to close. Your point is so well made. There's a lot of resources out there to help folks. And people like you, people like myself are there to help. It can be scary, but don't be scared. Jump in, figure it out. And a lot of us have done it before, and you'll be fine too. So great way to end it. Well, hey, Ken, thanks for the time today. We appreciate it. And look forward to hopefully seeing you sometime in person soon.
Yeah, for sure.